This is BK201, week 3, and I want to welcome both Anne-Marie and Jen this evening. Thank you so much. I'm Tom Beckman. I'm your host, but I think we're going to have some fun talking about gluten-free, not gluten-free. We were just talking gluten-free, vegan and raw desserts this evening. As there is a lot of different possibilities that way. And we were just talking about lots of different diets, whether real or imagined. And I think people sometimes want to position themselves in such a way that they want to just say, well, you know, I want to eat this now. And that's totally fine. I saw a commercial where a mother was talking about, and I've got a little vegan at home that she makes lunch for. And I thought to myself, well, little kids could want to be vegan too. There's nothing wrong with that. They probably go through phases of these kind of things. And maybe adults go through those phases too. And whatever brings you to veganism, vegetarianism, rawism, is that an ism? Raw food diet, be my guest. And I think, you know, exploring that and sometimes putting limitations on what we do makes us better cooks, and it kind of raises the bar a little bit for where we're working. You know, if we just say, well, whatever you want to make, then we're going to make the same old stuff, right? But when you go, okay, here's your limitations, that makes you think a little bit more, research a little bit more. And I did that this week, and I'm sure you guys did too, where you went out and you found, do you want to add something to Thanksgiving? You want to bring something that's a little different than you had last year. I mean, you got to have the green bean casserole. You got to have the sweet potatoes with the marshmallows on top, because Grandma and Ethel like that. But then I'm bringing a lentil butternut squash salad. I'm bringing a Thanksgiving slaw with pecans and dried cranberries. What are you guys bringing extra to Thanksgiving this week?
Well, I guess I will be taking my assignments, provided they pass the home test. So other than that, I got Ken's in there making sweet potato souffle. So.
Oh, very nice. I like that. That's good.
But that's all I have to bring this year.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. No, that's good. How about you, Em? Were you making anything special for Thanksgiving?
I am making it all this year.
You're doing every last bit of food?
Pretty much. So wait, I've been cooking for 3 days. At all. We'll have 18 people.
Yep.
And so we're doing a turkey stuffing, a Brussels sprout gratin, and what else? I'm working on 3 pies this evening. So I've got a banana cream pie. But fortunately, my class that I have right now is culinary for baking, and or baking for culinary students. And we have pies this week. So my assignment gets to be, I mean, it couldn't work out any more perfect.
Perfect, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm doing that, and then there's the typical mashed potatoes, gravy. I made stock, and yeah,
that's
a lot
awesome.
of food.
Now you're making your own pie dough, right?
Definitely.
All right, and is it vegan?
Well, I do have one vegan dessert that I am making, which I make all the time, and believe it or not, my kids actually like it better than regular pumpkin pie. It's a raw vegan pumpkin pie.
And how do you do that?
So the crust has nuts and oats and dates and coconut oil that kind of makes it all stick together.
Mm-hmm.
And the pumpkin part you put into a blender. You put pumpkin, soaked cashews, the magic vegan ingredient, always. And it just has like maple syrup. Again, I think coconut oil is in there, and your regular spices. And you puree that, pour it into the crust. The crust is not raw. It is lightly baked just till it's toasted a little bit. It has pecans in there. And then you put the pumpkin filling that you've blended and pureed till it's really smooth, and you put it into the pie shell, and then you freeze it.
I think that sounds pretty tasty. I mean, you're
it's
covering
good.
all the bases. You've got structure from the nuts. You've got the fat, which is obviously going to be good, and that's going to emulsify with the nuts quite a bit. That's good. And then the puree, and then the spices. That sounds pretty tasty. That does not sound horrible.
It's really creamy. It has you freeze it, you take it out of the freezer for about 15 minutes, and you can also make a coconut whipped cream. So it's dairy free, where you skim and just use the top of you chill the coconut milk, and you use the cream off of it, and you whip that, and it whips up it's not quite as fluffy as whipped cream, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, and it covers the base for being vegan then too. Well, so where did you find this? Is this something you made up, or is this something that you found on the web?
I wish I made it up, because I could make a lot of money probably. She's making a lot of money, I'm sure. I follow a blog. It's called Oh She Glows. Angela Liddon is her name, Liddon, and she has 2 cookbooks. She's from Canada, and she does a lot of raw and vegan food.
I have seen
a lot of vegetarian food. It's great. I make a lot of recipes out of her cookbooks.
Oh, I love the butternut squash.
Yep.
She's got the cashew, vegan cheese sauce. It does worry me when I see vegan cheese sauce, because there are certain things you kind of go, oh, please don't do that. But I think using vegetables and nuts as a base are great, and I think we really, and not to get too far off of desserts, but vegetables I think are the more interesting things at the Thanksgiving dinner anyway. But I think that's a good way to go vegan. Vegan cinnamon rolls, interesting. Well, we got to see what that is. Well, let's just see we'll just break her down a little bit here. I like the frosting. I would say she needs more proofing time, of course, but that's just me. But yeah, it looks pretty good. And I always wonder too, when you're talking about vegan, yeast is a living thing. So is that a creature? Is that can we use yeast? Apparently they don't care about the yeast. So for the dough, you got white flour, vegan butter, which I want to talk about tonight too, almond milk. So you're substituting a lot of things. And substitutes, some things work, some things don't work. And I would say that one of the things that we talk about a lot when we're talking about vegan and raw especially is you can't just substitute one for one. It doesn't work exactly that way. You got to play with it, and it may not work the first time. You go, okay, well, I mix this up, and what you'll find is you don't have enough structure, you don't have enough fat, you don't have enough salt, whatever it might be. You may have to go back to it and try it more than once. As food professionals, that's what we do, right? I mean, it always bugs me when I see people, they go, yeah, I tried it and it didn't work. Well, what'd you do about it? Fix it, make it work. I got that from every one of my chefs that I ever worked for, and they'd say in their French or in their Spanish or whatever I was working for, they'd say, make it work, Tom. Just make it work. I don't care how you do it, just make it work. Of course, that was the Southside Chicago guy who said that. Hey, Tommy, make it work, okay? Hey, okay. Yes, chef. Okay. So substitution is key to the whole thing. I do want to point out something else too, that butter, you can buy Earth Balance butter. There's a plethora of vegan butters, but I gotta say, I put one up on the website today for you. Let me show you this. I want to show this. I love this formula. This is from, there was a woman that I work with. She runs a bakery called Florial. And you've been there, haven't you, Jen? No, you should go. It's at Webster and Racine here in Chicago. So Anne Marie, when you come to Chicago and visit, you got to come to this bakery. And so Sandra Hull, Holl, is a good friend of mine, and she runs this bakery. And I got to tell you, first of all, she's got some of the most amazing baked goods in town anyway. Not just because she's a friend, but she's really professional, really, really high-end bakery. She does sour croissants. Unbelievable. And so, and that you can, I'll send you, I'll put the formula up for you too. I saw you taking a picture there. Don't feel like you have to. But so one of the things we did once, we did this class at Kendall College here in Chicago, and we made like 20 different varieties of croissants. And one of them, somebody asked for a vegan croissant. Okay, not easy to do, but we came up with it, and it was amazing. I shouldn't say we. When I say we, I mean Sandra. And she came up with this butter, and it is awesome. So here's the deal. So you got soy milk. The cider vinegar curdles the soy milk, which is nice. So that gives you some body. The lecithin and xanthan gum give it even more sort of a chewy kind of feel almost, but it's still fat, obviously. You've got the salt, the coconut oil, and sunflower oil. Give it that really good fatty base. And if you follow these instructions and you let it sit overnight, it makes, I mean, those were some of the first croissants to go, like, we're out of those already. The vegan croissants were amazing. So it makes, I want to say just about 2 pounds or about a kilo of butter. So you could make a smaller batch if you want, but I got to tell you, it freezes fine if you want to make it. It's just really tasty. But it's one of my favorites. And that being said, you can substitute that one for one. You don't have to change it up at all. Now, for instance, if you were changing your fat from butter to oil, or butter to another kind of fat like a shortening, vegetable based, you would have to change it up a little bit and take out some of the water and change the things. But this vegan butter is a one-for-one substitute. So that's one of my favorite things to do. I wanted to show you something else too. So this is week 3 you have to do, and as Jen was saying, you've got your banana bread, the blondies, the brownies to do with the avocado frosting. We'll go over the formulas in a little bit. But again, this is a perfect week to branch out and go nuts. Try something different. I wanted to show you this too. Let's see here. I came across a nice little website, 15 decadent raw vegan no bake dessert recipes. Well, okay, do you have to take these one for one either? The first thing I see right here, I go, okay, I like this kind of chocolatey thing with it looks like a nut base of some sort. I like the idea. Okay, so maybe I take my notes. Remember we talked about in the first week how I take notes over here. I'm working on my ginger dessert over here. Keep your note pad handy, whether it's digital or physical. But I've been working on these things, and I may just drop a picture in there too, and just kind of grab it. I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Just go over here, and I like that idea. So I'm going to just drop it in I keep saying nut, but my notepad. Take notes on the web. Don't be afraid to just grab some stuff, and think about ideas that you may want to work on. Now would I make this? No, I think that looks horrible. But what if I go, okay, so maybe the raw carrot cake, kind of an interesting idea, but I definitely would not pipe it out like that. I don't have to make it like these people. I'm going to make it my way. So let's look at the carrot cake. And again, when you're researching, and I really want you guys, and I'm not just talking to you two, I'm talking to the greater audience, the vast BK201 audience out there is watching this Thursday night, Friday night, whenever it might be. Do your research. Go in there and say, okay, They made the cupcakes out of nuts, dates. Dates are a good substitute. Carrots, cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, sea salt, and raisins. And those will give you the body you're looking for. Now, this is what, now, Amory, you mentioned the cashews. I'm not familiar with the soaked cashew ethic here. Tell me about that.
So cashews, raw cashews, not the honey roasted or the roasted and salted. The raw cashews, you can soak them in water, drain them, it typically like overnight, but you can, as long as it's at least an hour, and then you can blend it with something and it lends a creamy sort of sweet texture. You can change it up and use it as a sour cream by adding different things to it. You can also use it as a dairy substitute in soup. So,
if you're looking at this, then if you see the cup of cashews, let's say they're soaked, I put them in my food processor with the sweetener, the agave syrup, a little salt and lemon, and water to get to the right consistency, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
Something kind of a pipeable texture then?
I'm not sure it would pipe. It might be a little, maybe the water, you can adjust the water to keep it thicker, and you would definitely have to use a blender that is going to emulsify it, such as like, a Vitamix, a really powerful blender.
Okay, cool. But that's an idea for you guys too. So again, tuck these ideas away. I want to grab this guy right here and just grab this, copy it, go back over to my notes section. Now I said it right that time. And I'm going to put this down here for my notes. And I just take just ideas that you may find on the web and tuck them away. Now, a lot of people, you think about it, people use Pinterest all the time. And that may be a place you want to go as well to kind of tuck away ideas, but I keep them on my notepad. Then when you want to put something together, you put it together for yourself. You want to put certain things together. Maybe you like this frosting, but you're not going to use the cupcakes. Maybe you want that frosting because that looks like that's the nut frosting. We'll work on the look on that a little bit better. But maybe you want to put that frosting on the chocolatey things that they were showing there. Could you put it on there? Sure you could. This looks like a chocolate melted with some corn syrup or something like that. But just, go through, again, this guy's piping skills need some work, but, that's okay. I might see some cool ideas along here. But the bottom line is you got to research. You got to take some time to do the homework. And this class is tough because, it's a 6-week course, and you can use the formulas that are in each week's, laid out for you. But I can't say that they're the best thing for you. Maybe there's something better that you're more interested in. Jen, did you try something different? Didn't you try something different recently?
Well, just for this assignment, I made the recommended one last week and absolutely hated that slaw. I don't know if it was the raw mango in it. It just had a harsh aftertaste that mango did. And then the mint, I think if you cut it back drastically from like the 6 grams and you just had the apples, it would have been okay.
Okay, so the balance was off for you.
Yeah, to me, it was a whole lot of mint, and then I'm not a fan of the raw mango. Now, when I made the roasted mango and pear jam, that was the biggest hit of the night around my house. Matter of fact, my son made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with it today. He goes, best sandwich ever.
I do like that.
So this week I did branch out. I did the blondies.
Good.
And then I did a blueberry scone versus a currant because we're not into currants. But I did a paleo raw chocolate raspberry cake.
You describe that.
Well, I did basically what y'all were just talking about, taking the cashews. The crust had walnuts, coconut. I don't have all of my things here. Walnuts, coconut oil, and you took it and I put it in the food processor, poor thing. Mixed it up to where it was mealy. It was a wet mealy though. And then I pressed it into the springform pan, stuck it in the freezer while I made the filling, which was the cashews, which I soaked for about 2 hours. Trying to think, cocoa powder, more coconut oil. There was something else that went in that too. Oh, coconut milk. Processed all that together, and then I added frozen raspberries and just pulsed it a little bit so it kind of broke them up just a touch. Loaded that in the springform pan, stuck it back in the freezer, and then I took nut butter, more coconut oil, and cocoa, and mixed it up and made almost like a glaze that poured on top. And so now it's sitting in the freezer chilling for about an hour and a half.
That's awesome. Now, where did you find that? Or did you kind of grab a couple of different ideas?
No, I actually found it online because I have no clue when it comes to the vegan life. I'm gluten, fat, anything you can, animal byproduct lover. But it was the MaryMakerSisters.com is where I found it.
Let's take a look there. And how did you do, hang on a second.
I searched for raw desserts.
Let's see what we got here. Oh, they're not liking me.
Hold on, and I'll share the link with you if I can.
Oh, I'll find it. I found it. So yeah, I mean, the thing is, I think a lot of folks go, when they're not finding it, like the first 2 sites they look for, they give up. Again, don't give up. Stay with it. You're going to find a lot of not such great stuff out there. But then you find some good stuff too. So
yeah, it was under the sweet treats. And then you had to go several pages, I think, past.
Well, these go, yeah, I mean, there's one thing that clues me in right away. When you look at these, somebody has put this together very nicely, but it's obviously probably from home, and nothing wrong with that. Then maybe they have other people helping them with the site. But again, grab some ideas. I like chocolate peanut butter. Let's take a look at this guy. So you can look at different ideas here. They can go, okay, maybe I like the flavors here. Maybe I don't like the presentation so much, but maybe I'd do it slightly differently. This, again, we've got coconut oil, cocoa powder, peanut butter, natural sweetener, xylitol. Have you used this sweetener before?
No, actually, I used stevia. It called for
Right.
one that started with a T, so I just switched it to stevia, which was basically the same thing.
Stevia is good. That works really well. And you can use a different sweetener there if you want. But again, maybe this person has put this together and it tastes one way for them. That tastes great, but maybe it doesn't taste so great for me. So,
yeah, in my filling, I did have to add a little bit more raspberries to it and some more sweetener because it was bitter to me.
mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was the nuts maybe that I was tasting too much of. So I added extra raspberries and then probably a teaspoon and a half extra sweetener. But it did call for pitted dates soaked. So in the crust, that was the one I was missing.
Well, I was going to say that's one of the things I think that people got to watch out for. In regular baking, we're looking at certain things that you don't want to change. If you're making a cake, you don't leave out the flour. It's not physically possible. You got to put in some sort of leavener. You got to have sweetener, fat. You might have 1 or 2 leaveners. You may have some salt. Those are the basics, right? But can you change a cake from flavored with ginger to flavored with nutmeg? Absolutely, yeah. So we have to know kind of the structural elements. When you see dates in a raw a raw or a vegan thing, that kind of is a good clue that you leave those in, whether you're a date fan or not. You take those out, no structure at all. So you got to leave those in. Well, that's good. That's good. So that's fun. I mean, that's the weird thing about the web. There's so many places like Merrymaker Sisters, or there's one. What was it? It's a family friend, and I'm on her mailing list. Of course, now I can't find her, but it's a family friend, and she runs a sort of a healthy website as well, and it's just right out of her home. That's all. She's a dietitian. She's interested in putting forth good food, or what she believes is good food. That's great, but you got to kind of temper it with, okay, do I believe this person? Do I think they make good food? Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But you got to try it out, and don't give up. The things I was making, I grabbed the things. I got my Thanksgiving ideas off of a website called Kitchen, KITCHN, and I was like, well, those look good to me. And I tried to, and I saw things on there. Well, I didn't like the kale. I don't want the kale in my slaw because I know nobody's going to eat it. Because once they see the kale, they're going to. So I substitute some other ingredients. You were saying mint. You didn't want the mint in there. Put mint in there, and all of a sudden my slaw now is a little brighter. I wanted the mint in there. You don't really care for the mint so much. Fine. So you got to kind of, adjust as you go. But I would say really start bookmarking a lot of places, but explore a lot. And you got to explore. And this week is different because we have Thanksgiving coming up on Thursday. But you got to do it early in the week so that you're not researching on Tuesday afternoon. It's not going to work if you're researching Tuesday afternoon because it's due on Tuesday. You got to have them ready to go. So let's see what else. I wish something else I wanted to show you.
The one thing I did notice though when I was making these, the blondies, the scones, well, not the scones, but the blondies and the cake, it went a little faster than normal baking.
Oh, really? How do you figure that was?
Probably because the raw, of course, you didn't have to cook. But even the blondies, they just went together quicker. They emulsified and incorporate, it all just kind of went a lot faster. It probably took me like 30 minutes from beginning of mise en place to pulling them out of the oven for those blondies.
That's one thing I do like. We're not working on gluten-free this week, but I do like making gluten-free stuff. Not for me to eat, but for other people to eat. But I'm always very cognizant, either if I'm making bread or if I'm making cake or something like that, cognizant of gluten development. Hey, I don't have to worry about that today. It's gluten-free. Stir as much as you like, So you don't have to think about it. But yeah, that's an interesting concept, Jen. Well, I wanted to point up in your reading about the raw foods too. It does show some benefits of raw foods, but I think this is a key thing. And Emery, you were talking about your crust there, that officially you were not allowed to go above 116 degrees. Now, what that is, I don't know. Maybe that's like August in Arizona or something that they go, well, that's okay. But generally, you're not going to go above 116. But I think if you even just were to dry out your product a little bit in the oven at a low temp, I think they would allow that. And that's kind of what you were doing with your crust there. So that
definitely.
Mm-hmm. But that it's food is they say food is most nutritious when it's raw, natural, and uncooked. Some people would believe that. Okay, fine. And I do like raw foods. I think, I eat a lot of sushi here in Chicago. I don't know if I have had a lot of raw milk products. You guys had raw milk before? Not so much? Okay. Let's see what else I was going to say. And then a lot of these things are, like we saw about raw, is things that are pressed together and really kind of getting them nice and tight. We don't have a lot of airiness to it, but Emery was mentioning that you could whip them if you do have a Vitamix, and a Vitamix is a really good friend of raw foods because you can whip a little bit of air into it. It's kind of nice. I wanted to show you something else too. And then when we're talking about vegan desserts, we need to have replacements. And there are a lot of non-dairy products like soy, almond, and coconut milk, hemp milks even for that matter. They make vegan sour creams, vegan soy yogurts, and we talked about the vegan butter already. You can buy vegan butter, like I said, but really got to push that that homemade. It tastes so much better. The Earth Balance stuff, it kind of has a weird flavor to it. The eggs are a big deal too. Now, if we're just using eggs kind of as a thickener, as it were, you can use flax seeds. And I got to tell you, I'm a big proponent. I don't know if you guys like flax seeds, but I use flax seeds all the time, and flax meal for that matter too. It gives a really nice body to it. Again, it's gluten-free, but it really gives a almost kind of spongy kind of feel to it. And spongy may or may not be a desirable word to use when we're talking about baking so much, but gelatinous, let's say. And you can add a little bit of water to your flax seeds, and it'll give you the viscosity of an egg. And if you're looking for kind of a healthy additive for things too as well, this is unrelated to vegan or raw, but you can add flax meal to a lot of things. For instance, and I hope my wife's not listening, but when I make chocolate chip cookies, I put in about 10% flax meal because I like the texture. She's like, fine. She doesn't know. I mean, she doesn't know what goes in it. But I think it gives a really nice texture and a little bit of extra color for it. It gives a nice little kind of speckled look to it. I think it has a great flavor. Again, kind of like wheat germ. I don't know if you guys are into wheat germ at all, but both those things are good for that kind of to bring up some texture and flavor. They mention it here too in bran muffins and corn muffins. I'm such a big fan. Well, of course, I have a big bag of it. I have to use it up somewhere. But I use it in my corn muffins. In fact, I just made some jalapeno cheese. This is not, gluten-free or anything. It's just good for dinner. But jalapeno, corn, cheese. What else did I put in there? I put a bunch of other stuff in there. But I put in flaxseed meal. And again, it gives that nice kind of body to it. So big fan of that. And not a big fan of the tofu. Do you guys use tofu at all? Something about the texture bothers me, and I don't really care for it. So I probably would not be using it. But people do use it as a substitute for eggs because, again, it gives that kind of gelatinous kind of feel. And if you have to, then that's fine. You can do it that way. I'm not going to.
I even pick it out of the soups at the Chinese restaurant.
Right, yeah, so do I. Yeah, exactly.
It's like, I'm not eating that stuff.
Now, the sour soy cream and baking soda will give you some leavening, which is good. But again, it does not 100% reproduce the action of what eggs do in your baked goods. So, and right down here at the bottom, don't be afraid to experiment. A big part of learning to bake vegan will be trial and error. No truer words were ever written. It is so true. So definitely look through the reading this week. I think you'll find a lot of interesting stuff. Let me see if there was something else I wanted to mention here. We already talked about seeds and nuts as good alternatives for vegan folks too. But Jen did make a point before we started recording that if you are a nut allergic and vegan, you're in trouble. You're in big trouble. Hopefully that did not happen to you. But maybe you have to find a different route to go. That's fine. I'm trying to think. Is there anything else you guys wanted to add?
I do have a question.
Go for it.
Why do you use so much coconut oil in everything? Is that just to help bind it together?
Exactly.
Because I bought one of the little jars and I used a little bit in previous assignments, but this one is like 3/4 of the jar gone.
Yeah. Yeah. So the deal there is, Jen, that fat really carries flavor a lot. So you need that fat. And I got to say, I'm a big fan of the coconut oil. I think it's a really good substitute for butter and oil in a lot of things. Uh, that being said, it's expensive for one, and it's still fat. I mean, you're not really saving any calories, or you're not really being any more healthy, but you are taking the animalness out of the baked product then. So yeah, that's probably why they push that. It seems, at least I've found, I find it emulsifies a little bit better than if you're just using oil. And it's supposed to be healthier for you than using, say, a vegetable oil, like a peanut oil or something like that. But I think it works well in these products. I think that's why they use so much of it. But yeah, that's another thing. If you are poor and vegan, I think you're in trouble, because it's too expensive. It's really, you can't afford to be vegan.
Yeah, I also think that the coconut oil helps, like in a couple of dessert recipes that I have, that you use a lot of coconut oil that you freeze. It doesn't freeze to a solid. It's more of like a shortening. And so I think it helps with that texture, that it's a softer texture, but it still sets up.
Absolutely. No, I agree with that 100%, Amory. That's true. It's solid at colder temperatures. And that's why I like using it for the crumbles, for what we call like a streusel. You can use it, and I've not tried making a pie dough with it, but I would think you could probably make a relatively flaky pie dough if you did a couple turns on it out of coconut oil. Have you guys ever tried making pie dough with that stuff?
No, but I think I'm going to try. That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to freeze the coconut oil to make sure it was completely solid. And like you were saying, even frozen, it's still somewhat pliable. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. I was gonna say, for my pies this week, again, I used my friend Sandra from Floriole. I got to show you her website. As long as, I think we're just about done talking about the raw stuff and the vegan stuff. Yeah, I got to show you this. She does a unbelievable quiche. Are you guys fans of quiche at all? She does this quiche. Oh, here, it's featured this week on her website. Ham, Brussels sprouts, and cheddar, or kale, cauliflower, Gruyere. You know which one I'm picking. But her dough for that is kind of what they call a blitz puff pastry. You guys know how to make puff? You know how to make puff pastry, right? So what she does is, and I think this is a great one too. And when I asked her about it, I was like, "That is the best dough." And she's, "Oh, I got it from this French cookie book." And so I looked it up. I had it at home myself, so I'm like, I never even thought about using that. Well, it uses vinegar in there, so it reduces the gluten in a little bit. But she uses a little melted butter, which in my world of making pie dough, we don't do that. We don't put melted butter in pie dough or in puff pastry. But it is spectacular. And so I made it with my pies today. And the pumpkin pie, it's got this big, huge, nice flaky crust around the side. But then I pre-baked the crust. So now the bottom is nicely browned. It's got a flaky bottom. And I don't know about you guys, I hate that sort of chewy, underbaked pie dough. Well, the Blitz puff pastry is perfect for that. So I don't tell anybody that it's really puff pastry that I'm using for my pies, but that's what it is. But anyway, if you get a chance, she's, like I said, here, 1220 West Webster, Jen. You would love this place. She does some beautiful work here. Oh, she posted this on Instagram this morning, and I was like, oh, I wish I'd had time to get out there, because she's got a whole speed rack full of underused baked goods. She's got all these extra pies, baguettes, looks like some boules there that she was practically giving away, and she's just down the road. I was like, oh, I don't have time today. I can't get over there. But really nice folks. If you ever get a chance, you get in Chicago and you want to find a nice bakery, this is your bakery for sure. Well, cool. Well, I think that's all I've got for you at the moment. Like Jen was saying, we've got the blondies, we've got the scones, we've got the banana bread, we've got the raw brownies.
Yeah, with the avocado.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff.
Tell me about before we go, tell me about, did you make the brownies?
No, I did not make the brownies because I heard from your other students how horrible they were. So I'm like, no, I'm not even going. Yeah. Based off their faces, I took that as the gospel and I ran from it.
All right, don't just listen to her. Listen to me. Some folks have liked them over the years. No, I respect that, and but I think it depends on. I think it's the big variable in there is your cocoa. If you don't measure your cocoa, or you don't make it just right, or you have kind of a boring, kind of weird cocoa. No offense, but people buy very unusual cocoa sometimes. I tend to go with a little darker cocoa myself. If you get kind of an off cocoa, it's the whole basis of the dessert. So I respect that. That's why you made that other vegan or the other raw thing you were telling us about.
Yeah, to me, the whole put off was the avocado. So I knew if it put me off, my family wasn't going to eat it. So I wasn't going to waste the money.
That's fair. That's fair. And yeah, it's not cheap. But yeah, if you want to make something else, definitely that's the one to go out and research. And if you want to just research and do one special one this week, be my guest. But have a look at the formulas and do some research. But do it Wednesday, tonight, or Thursday, tomorrow. You know, when Thanksgiving gets kind of boring and everybody's just like, food coma. Well, that's when you go and you sit on the couch or in your special, the comfy chair. You get the laptop out and you start researching and start looking through all these websites, and you find some good stuff. Get your notepad out and start taking some good notes, and you'll find that you'll get quite a nice backlog of good, fun stuff to play with. And then when you want to make something in the kitchen, like Saturday, Sunday, you're all set to go. Okay? Any questions? I know I sound like David S. Pumpkins. Any questions? Well, Anne-Marie, it was great to see you. Thank you for coming. I appreciate that.
Thank you. It was fun being here.
Well, good deal. Good deal. And you're welcome back anytime you want to come visit us, too.
Thank you. I will.
Come visit 141 one night, too.
Awesome. We'd love that.
When does 141 meet?
Oh, it's, gosh, right now we are meeting on Tuesday in the morning.
Oh, cool. Oh, well, that might be a good time. I might poke my head in one day.
Sounds good.
Cool.
They've also got one Monday nights at 6 too.
Okay, cool deal. Awesome. Well, thank you guys, and those of you who are watching on the archive, thank you for watching, and I appreciate your time. And we will see you next week after Thanksgiving. Have a great holiday, guys.
Thanks, Anne-Marie.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.